New car at the shop. It's a 365 GT 2+2. The owner just bought this car. It was out in Los Angeles, and this owner and I have been talking for several months about buying a 365 2+2 to bring back to the East Coast, and he found this one in Los Angeles, and then asked me if I knew anybody out there that could inspect it for him. I normally would go and travel and see it, and certainly was open to doing it, but it's also, if I can find somebody local to where a car is being sold, I will often opt to have my friend or somebody that I know well and trust to inspect the car, and that's what we did. Had my friend Giovanni out in Gran Turismo in Los Angeles take a look at it, and you know, I trust his opinion. So he had done the inspection, test drive, and did the compression check. Everything turned out really well. You know, I felt that it was a good car. Paint is okay. I mean, it's a driver. It's not anything that is a show car, but you know, drivers are great cars. I mean, they don't have to be super perfect, but this one I think is probably even considered a little bit better than a driver. Interior wise, it looks really nice. I mean, the interior has been redone at one point, so it's pretty clean, and it shows just the right amount of wear as far as like a driver is concerned. The steering wheel shows a little bit of varnish coming off, but at the same time, it was done probably about 10-15 years ago, I think, or the receipts might be even as long as 20 years ago, but it's holding up pretty well because the car doesn't really get driven much. The outside of the car looks pretty good. I mean, the paint is now that I have the car, we could see receipts showing that it was stripped down and repaired, but it's holding up pretty well, and really looking forward to going over the car a little bit, and you know, I took it out for a drive, and it felt pretty good. My biggest complaint at this point is just that the rear sits a little low. These cars have an automatic load leveler shock, and they're supposed to set the ride height automatically as the car moves, but I think it's a design flaw because the shocks really don't work. Even brand new ones last so long and then they fail. And in fact, Kony used to rebuild them, and then they stopped rebuilding them. And what they did was they created a update, which is a coilover with an adjustable spring perch. So it doesn't necessarily automatically set the ride height, but it sets it so that, you know, you can put it in there and it doesn't adjust. You can see right now the front of the car sits a little high, and the rear sits a little low, and what I'm going to do is the first thing I'm going to do on this car is install the Kony shock update, and hopefully that'll level the car out. It'll bring the back up a little bit and push that nose down a little bit so it doesn't understeer as much as it did. But that's one of the first things that I'd like to do. Let's take a look at the engine. So it's pretty nice. Let me just get this prop rod up, but it looks pretty good. It has a few hoses that are incorrect, but you know, and a aftermarket alternator, but most of the details and fixtures and all those things are where they should be. At least they're still there. You know, all the brackets and the nuts and the regulators and all that stuff is there, so that's good. I mean, I could see that it's missing a little cap here that goes over the electrical connection. It's some of the finishes aren't correct, but again, we're not trying to make a show car. It's just nice to see that it hasn't been messed around with. What a lot of times on these cars is that so many people have their hands in it that pieces get taken off and left off and thrown away, and that's what makes it difficult. I mean, I don't think this owner is going to necessarily show the car, but it's certainly nice to have the pieces. I could see that the hood pad is incorrect on this car. Someone had replaced it with like a silver vinyl. It's on the 365s. It's supposed to be a square quilted pattern or rectangular quilted pattern, but it didn't lose the braces, the aluminum braces that go across. So I mean, that's not a big deal. And again, not a thing that I would necessarily change on this car, but if they wanted to show it, you know, you would be pulling that off and changing it. Also, it's not the correct diamond quilting anyway, because that's like copying what they had on 330s, but it's more of a mylar finish than just the silver vinyl. But all in all, generally a good interior, good engine compartment. So that's another plus. I'm gonna take it down the road a little bit and take a look and see what it feels like. It's a little cold, so the carburetors just need to warm up a little bit. One of the first things I did when it came in was I changed the shocks. The shocks were a little, the rear shocks on this car were sagging. This car was sagging in the rear, and I immediately ordered the update. Koni used to rebuild the shocks, but they stopped doing it, I think, honestly, because they couldn't get them to stay sealed. They would just start leaking and fail. So part of the whole thing is that Koni now provides a coilover shock that you can install, and although it doesn't automatically set the ride height anymore, it at least keeps the rears from sagging. I mean, you know, if you set the ride height and you put a lot of weight in the back, it might sit a little lower than normal, but I don't think it'll sit to the ground when the low levelers are not working correctly. So you know, I think it's the best compromise, as opposed to, you know, putting these new shocks in, or a rebuild set of shocks and then have them fail in a year or two and you're back to where you started. Starts to warm up, I'm just listening into it, trying to see what it sounds like, see what we got. So far it sounds good. One thing I am noticing is there's a little bit of gear whine, or maybe a bearing whine. It might be gear. Starting to feel a little bit more like gear. Just a little bit of gear whine. Not something to be really concerned about. You can hear it. It might go away as it warms up, so we'll hear more of it as we let it warm up, but you can definitely hear it as the faster we go. So it might be rear end, because I think it's, figure it out. I mean, what you do is to try to figure out where the gear whine is coming from. Is it speed dependent, or is it gear dependent? So in other words, if it's transmission, a lot of times if it's a gear that's inside the transmission, you'll hear it change as you change gears, the sound of the whine. If it's speed dependent, what will happen is it'll come from the differential, and the differential ring and pinion will make noise, and that's from the speed. So it's fixed to the speed of the wheels, and that's what I'm trying to listen to right now. If I change, because I can hear it right now, but it seems to be going regardless, like it's the same whether I'm in gear or out of gear, or rather the speed of it doesn't change. In other words, when I change from 4s to 5th to 4th, I can hear it kind of still stays even when I'm out of gear. So even in neutral, it's making the same noise. So it's probably just in the rear end. I can hear just as I get on power, it changes a little bit of sound. So it's those things that I'm investigating right now in my mind as I'm hearing it. I can hear it change just a little bit, so it could just be the throw out, or rather not throw out, the end play of the pinion. But it's not bad, it's just a little bit of noise. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn around down here, head on back. a big heavy car. It's not you know, a light car, but it certainly seems to pull pretty well. There's a little bit of brake vibration, not too bad, but just a little bit. Yeah, I can definitely feel the brakes are a little bit of run out in the brakes. So these cars are probably the longest Ferrari they made. I mean, it's a 2+2, and it's stretched and laid out. So lots of room inside the car, and actually very comfortable. Really enjoy these cars as just cruising, you know, grand touring cars. They, I think they also have this great, sleek, laid-back look to it. Rather cold day today. So it's water temperature is not really moving much. Yeah, you can definitely hear it. Look, as I get on and off the gear.